Have you had trouble sleeping and wondered if you should do EMDR or neurolinguistic training or some other type of intervention or therapy for insomnia? If that is the case, welcome, because that's exactly what we are going to talk about in this class. I hope to share with you how I can actually answer questions like this without even knowing anything about the intervention or the course or whatever it is in a helpful way. So with that said, let's jump right in. And I want to say that, the reason I'm doing this is that I got a question about like 2 or 3 weeks ago about something called ART from it was actually a student in our Insomnia Immunity program who brought this up in a class. And she said, "Hey, Daniel, have you heard about ART? What do you think of ART?" And she just briefly said that it's sort of a abbreviated form of EMDR or something like that. And I don't know much about EMDR itself. I know it has something to do with like eye movements, but I know very little about it. But I think I can still answer these questions in a meaningful way. And how is this? Well, that's what we're going to get to in today's class. But again, just a quick review of the common questions I get. They go like this: like, "Hey, Daniel, do you recommend EMDR? Like specifically, like, do you think this is something we should do?" Or more in a little bit less convoluted, like, "Hey, Daniel, what do you think about ART?" Which is not directly asking like, should I do this or not, but that is actually the question, underneath there. Or, "Hey, Daniel, should I do this?" Like, similar question, neurolinguistic training. And now the thing is that, again, I can actually answer all these questions without knowing anything about them really. And I'm going to share with you how to answer all questions like this. And to do so, I'm just going to use X as the intervention, the thing that is being asked about, whatever it is just going to be called X here. And actually, the theme in this class are these like therapies or that type of intervention, But in reality, the answer actually goes way beyond that. It's a very, very broad answer. X could actually be, when we ask about X could be something like exercise, yoga. It could be about supplements. It could be about life decisions, like should I take a break from my job, things like that. It could be about supplements. It could be about anything, right? So this is very, very, the answer here, I hope you'll find really, really applicable, right? Now, how is that? How will we be able to answer this question or these questions? Well, I broke this class down into 3 parts. We're going to review the first principle of NATO, very helpful one. Then we're going to look at our personal intent and look at the intrinsic intent of X, if there is one. All right, so with that said, let us look at our first principle. So the first, like the fundamental principle out of 2, and the fundamental principle of our way is the principle of effortlessness. And it basically just says that peace of mind and peaceful sleep, which we all want, are always effortless. When we find peace of mind, when we have a moment of like calm and just enjoy a moment, that is never a product of an intervention or like an effort or something we did. It always comes from the absence of trying. It's just it's just something that happens by itself. We're not trying to make it happen. Same thing with peaceful sleep. Now, the tricky thing there can be someone say like, so are you saying that if we're trying to sleep, we will not sleep at all? No. Sleep always happens eventually. Like when our body needs sleep, it will get it. But peaceful sleep, like feeling like, I slept well, that sleeping well aspect of sleep, that is always effortless. Just like peace of mind, peaceful sleep, they always are effortless. And just so you're not like, I don't leave you hanging here, the second principle is the principle of survival, that everything that is alive is trying to survive. So that's where we have like racing thoughts and palpitations, things like that. That's just a manifestation of our fight or flight system. But that was a little parenthesis. The first principle is the one we want to focus on here. Now, with that said, let's look at number 2, looking at our intent. Our intent with X, with neurolinguistic training or EMDR or whatever it is. If our intent with doing X is to sleep more, to sleep better, to have more sleep quality, better sleep quality, like things like that, we will have more trouble sleeping. This just follows our first principle of effortlessness. The more effort we put in, the more struggle we have, the less effort, the easier sleep happens. And consequently, if our intent with doing X is either unrelated to sleep, it's nothing to do with sleep. I just want to, do EMDR to learn about myself, for example, that's fine. And or if the intent is to find willingness to experience not sleeping, for example, if like I'm gonna do X because I think it will make it more easy for me to be awake at night, if that so happens, then X can be really, really helpful, because now you're on the path towards effortlessness. So looking at our intent is really helpful. And I just want to spend one more minute on that unrelated intent. Like, if somebody may ask, like, so I'm having all this insomnia and, I'm thinking of doing EMDR, and, what other intent could there be than to sleep more? Because I've been struggling with it, but it could be a whole lot more. Unrelated intent can just be self-exploration, just learning about how the human mind works, learning about how we react, learning how kind of our mind works. It can be really, it's unrelated. It's just like education for the purpose of education, like because we like to educate ourselves. And as a nice side effect, if we will, we can become less scared when we understand something, and we try less, and effortlessness happens, right? And also another unrelated intent is just exposure to things we have tried to avoid, like any type of therapy, any method that understands that escaping is tricky, and when we're willing to experience things like being scared, being afraid, without trying to escape, that's really helpful. So any type of X with that intent that is unrelated to sleep can be really helpful as well. Now, thirdly and finally, this is going to actually be very brief, but the third part is there's sometimes intrinsic intent. Forget about like our intent with doing something. Maybe there's sort of like a built-in intent within X, within the thing, within the intervention. So, I'm just going to give you two examples, and you can see it for yourself. So if you hear, so you read something online, like an ad like this, like, hey, fall asleep 50% faster with this 4-week ART course, and it's just completely aimed at speeding up falling asleep. It's almost like our intent doesn't matter, because the intent of the intervention itself is like full of effort, right? So if the intrinsic intent with X is, effort, then or control, then it's going to be troublesome. Versus this one, like, take this ART course to learn how to sit with difficult emotions. The intrinsic intent here is effortlessness, really helpful. So in it, to sort of conclude here, you can see that when you think about something, or when somebody asks you about something, to see whether it's going to be helpful or not, you don't actually need to know the details of the intervention. It's more the principles and the intent that truly matter. So my recommendation is really to see this invitation, to see the invitation to the effortless way, because this is the way that leads us to where we want to be, a place of peaceful sleep and peace of mind. I hope this is really helpful to you, and I hope you now can answer all these questions if they pop up in your own mind, or if somebody else asks you about them. And finally here, if you're finding that you are on this effortless path and things are getting easier for you, that is wonderful. Please let us know. Share it in the comment section. That would be wonderful to hear. On the other hand, if despite the education here, things are tricky, you're not really seeing how the pieces to the puzzle fit in, you're feeling isolated, lonely, people around you don't understand, and you want to feel like yourself again, you want to feel heard, then please head over to thesleepcoachschool.com, check out our coaching options if you decide to join. We look forward to seeing you on the other side. That said, I'll conclude here. Look forward to seeing you again here real soon. Until then, take it easy.